Yo, can we talk about Rabbit and Steel for a sec? I have been absolutely obsessing over this indie title for the better part of about, 2 weeks? I'm honestly not sure. I completely space out and lose track of time when I play it, so the last few weeks have honestly been a blur to me, and I forgot what year we were in at some point. Anyways, this game is absolutely goated. Like, seriously, if you aren't playing it because the bullet hell mechanics scare you or something, then you are missing out, my friend. So what is Rabbit and Steel? Well, let's go to the store page, because the game couldn't have a better sales pitch, honestly. Rabbit and Steel is a co-op action raiding roguelike focused around fighting challenging bosses alongside your rabbit-eared friends. Fight foes, gather loot, build your character, and work together to overcome obstacles on your way to the Moonlight Pinnacle. Combat is deliberately similar to tab-target MMORPGs, being based around global cooldowns, effective skill usage, and gear effects, resolving boss mechanics through teamwork. This isn't an MMO though, it's a roguelike. TLDR, you mash Final Fantasy XIV and Touhou together and make it with procedurally generated loot items and you get Rabbit and Steel. This game is very straightforward about its identity and knows what it wants to be, and I have massive respect to the dev behind it for that reason. Yes, I said dev as in a singular one. Yep, this is a baller game made by one dude who was absolutely inspired by the Final Fantasy XIV rating, but wanted to bypass the hours of grinding to max level in order to reach the fun part. Now, for the most part, the mechanics in Rabbit and Steel are extremely simple. You and up to 3 other party members will fight a series of bosses in rapid succession in order to clear each stage that is divided into 5 segments. There are 4 stages in total, starting with a short prologue stage followed by whichever stage you chose to start on, which then switches to 2 or more randomly chosen stages that will gradually become more and more difficult until you reach the final stage, the Moonlight Pinnacle. Here, you will have to fight the same boss layout before reaching a clusterfuck that will mash together every mechanic in the game rolled into one cute and friend-shaped vibe check that will not hesitate to massacre your entire party. Every stage in the game has unique mechanics that you will need to learn, while also providing the player with an adorable catgirl shopkeeper at the start of each stage that allows you to purchase upgrades for your skills, temporary potion buffs, level ups which increase your damage by 1% per level, or to restore your HP. Not to mention the most important mechanic of the shopkeeper, you can pet her. Also, as you climb the stages of the game, you will slowly be introduced to item selections, where you will choose one of 5 options that'll give you benefits that range anywhere from giving you debuffs on your secondary skill to calculus homework. Also, the more you play the game, the more game that you have access to. There's a ton of unlocks that you can get in Rabbit and Steel in the form of new characters or new procedurally generated item sets. You either unlock them from completing unique conditions, such as beating a stage with exactly 77 gold in your pocket, or just go oonga boonga and kick the shit out of 80 bosses. Your choice. All in all, there is a lot of content here for $15 USD. Moving on, however, I think what makes me sing the praises of this game so much is that from a game design standpoint, Rabbit and Steel just has so many great design decisions in it that it's honestly unreal to think about at times. For example, there are very few items or skill upgrades that you can obtain in the game that are strictly an upgrade. Like, yeah, there's certainly an upgrade to running your kit vanilla 99% of the time, but the point is that everything sort of has this push and pull dynamic. For example, almost every attack in Rabbit and Steel has a GCD or a global cooldown, right? And you can just think of a GCD as being the recovery frames of an animation after it activates, meaning that you need to wait for a time to elapse after you activate a skill to use another one. And most skill upgrades adjust your GCD, or cooldown of the skill, or even the movement speed while you are activating it. For a specific example, Heavy Blade Bunny has a Ruby skill upgrade for her full moon attack that nearly doubles the damage output and increases the range of the AoE, but it increases the GCD and slows you down when you make the attack. So it changes your playstyle entirely by making you pay attention to your attack rotations more for when you pop your primary skill. Lest the boss bitch slappeth thine face during recovery frames like thy noob you are. My point ultimately is that the way items and skills react with each other makes the game feel fresh on every run and kinda just changes how you run the character ever so slightly. Not only that, but a majority of your damage output genuinely comes from how well that you know your character and their damage rotations. There are certainly overpowered item combos in the game that can delete any boss faster than they can conceivably comprehend the sheer amount of whoop-ass coming their way. But if you just aren't dealing enough damage to the boss, then chances are you aren't consistently dealing damage throughout the fight, as in being out of range of your attacks, or you're just too focused on staying alive that you're not paying attention to proper combos or something. And the reason why that is just such good design is that you aren't at the mercy of RNGesus on whether or not that you can actually do well in a run. A lot of it is skill-based, which makes the game very, as I dare say, accessible. Whether or not that you're one of those types of people that needs to play this game with a fucking spreadsheet right next to you to have the optimal damage output ratio and uptime, or if you're just the kind of casual player who pops in here for an hour every now and again and just plays a couple of runs with your friends to shoot the shit and see what happens, either way, there's something in this game for both types of players and anybody in between. Which will lend credence into my second point, which is that this game has a high ceiling that I can appreciate because it is also very accommodating to new players. Now, I know for a fact that there is a non-zero amount of people that will see this game and say something to the effect of, yeah, that is way too much going on at once, or, yeah, there's no way that I can do that, or, my head is spinning just watching you. And the reality of this all is just, if you're saying this, then there's a very high likelihood that you're just afraid to give the game a shot and be bad at it for a while until you pick up on the mechanics. Which, just to be clear, that is totally valid, by the way. I think a lot of people just have trouble understanding the mindset behind games that have, quote-unquote, a lot going on. And it's just simply the fact that anyone who gets really good at these games just simply knows how to follow patterns, right? Nobody who ever plays a bullet hell or geometry dash or even DDR, any kind of skill game like this, is ever really thinking very hard about every input or thing that they do. In fact, it's all instinctual. They're just building up a response to be able to do these things, and the idea is to do as minimal thinking as you possibly can. You're trying to play the game until you reach a sort of flow state where movements just become reactions and you don't even have to think about it. That is it. That is the secret to these sorts of games. And the reason why I'm even bringing this up in the first place is because I genuinely think a lot of people shy away from roguelikes and all these other skill games because they underestimate their own skills, when in reality, you really just need to practice and make it muscle memory. That is it. You don't need to be great at the game, you don't need to be fantastic at it. You can enjoy your time, especially in a game like Rabbit and Steel, just in feeling your own progression over time. Not only just your own progression, but whoever that you're simultaneously playing with, which is going to lead into my final point, being that Rabbit and Steel just exemplifies the usage of good teamwork. You see, it's easy to play a game and focus on your own improvements and get better at it, but Rabbit and Steel has this whole other side of it that revolves around your teammates and how they perform. And yes, it is possible to carry a bad team if you are good enough, but I don't think that that's really in the spirit of the game that the dev was trying to accomplish here. The mechanics of Rabbit and Steel are directly linked to positioning not just for you, but also in relation to your party. An example boss here, Carsey the Ruby Dragon, was a nightmare of a boss to fight and learn the mechanics with my normal raiding crew, simply because our positioning was awful. It was terrible. You're kind of just supposed to do a dance around this boss in a circle and be perfectly spaced out from each other on every, 90 degrees of the circle, and just follow the wheel of telegraphs while occasionally piling up on top of each other to avoid projectiles. And it took us a while to get into that sort of flow state and dance. This game puts teamwork to the absolute test. You need to simultaneously know when to space out from your party and when to pile up on top of each other, otherwise you can and will get somebody killed. And yeah, getting killed by your teammate can certainly be frustrating, but that's just sort of the charm of the game, ultimately. There's an online mode to match you with randoms in order to do a full run, even though you can also do this solo, but it changes tremendously depending on how many people are in the run. And honestly, guys, you are doing yourself a disservice by playing this game without having at least one or two other moots to play the game with, genuinely. It is so unbelievably satisfying to finally see your own self-improvement bear fruit, but it is even better and sweeter when you can improve as a team with other people. beating that pesky boss that you've been trying to learn for the last hour with your buddies while dancing around each other and doing everything that you just can in order to survive is a feeling that I simply cannot describe in words. So seriously, I implore you guys, if you're thinking about picking up the game, find a buddy to play Rabbit and Steel with, or just use the Rabbit and Steel official Discord and find a group. It is so worth the time, trust me. So yeah, in short guys, this game is just fantastic. Not only is it a great game to play, but it's also designed really well on a number of aspects. I don't even have any negatives to say about the game after they updated the wind effect to be more reactive on keyboard and mouse users, to be honest. I mean, literally. The best negative that I can come up with is, I don't know, I guess the lack of a mode that lets you sample every item and skill type, I guess. The game is very random in terms of items and shop stock, so it would be nice to just test out builds and rotations with access to every item and skill in the game so you can figure out what your favorite combinations are. That and Punch Bunny is just too fucking broken, I'm sorry. As a die-hard Bruiser Bunny main, I can confirm from experience that this character is overpowered. She does absurd amounts of damage for minimal investment. She has a buff that makes her global cooldown to 0.8 seconds, meaning that she can just spam attacks while moving faster than any other character in the game, on top of having a double stacking defensive cooldown. She is objectively the best character I have played in the game so far, and doesn't require a lot of brain power to run well. Just pop your special, spam your primary, and you will kick the absolute shit out of anything that crosses you. Also, her primary can hit a boss from halfway across the arena, so you're never out of range. Punch Bunny is broken. End of story. Anyway, that's all for me, kits. I will see you in a future video, though I am unsure what that video will be. I'm thinking of doing another long-form video essay response to a Starbound video I saw a while ago, but I don't know. Who knows? I also still owe people a 5-star AR in a nutshell video for Girls Frontline, so stay tuned, friendos. So long, and take it easy.